Right, so Labour MP Jess Phillips, she's opened her mouth again and put both of her feet firmly in it, with room for more besides, it seems, making comments in, of all places, to Daily Mail, claiming treatment she received for breathing difficulties was prioritised because of how she voted for a ceasefire in Palestine. This is stupid for a multitude of different reasons, but the inference here is that she received preferential treatment from a doctor she claims was Palestinian because of how she voted on the issue of a ceasefire, we saw her end up stepping down from her frontbench role to do so. Where Keir Starmer is already coming under fire and being nicknamed two-tier Keir for how demonstrators are being treated differently by the police depending on what they happen to be protesting about, Jess Phillips' inherent idiocy and vanity have now inferred there are two tiers of medical treatment on offer in the NHS as far as being treated by Muslim or perceived Muslim medical staff go. This is arguably the most narcissistic, self-aggrandising comment I think Phillips has ever uttered, and she's put Muslim medical staff in danger of far-right repercussions over her words, stated in a right-wing hate rag like the Mail, either knowing exactly what she's doing or was too stupid to see the power her words have and the repercussions that such comments can potentially lead to. Right, so first and foremost, when you seek emergency medical treatment for anything, anyone who has rung 999 before and requested an ambulance, what is the first thing the call handler always asks you by way of a question? I'm sure if you haven't ever had to call the emergency services and request an ambulance before, you'll have certainly seen one of the multitude of different ambulance-based documentary series that get shown where you'll have seen such a call getting handled. The first question is always, of course, is the patient breathing? This should tell anyone with half a brain, frankly, therefore, what the priorities are, or at least what the priorities begin with when triaging a potential patient over the phone. Prioritising the service's assets to ensure the most critical patients are always seen more quickly, and you don't get a higher priority than someone who is struggling to breathe. If you're Jess Phillips, though, who attended Birmingham Hospital, according to this story in the Mail, with breathing difficulties and blue lips, you get prioritised because you were seen by a Palestinian and got prioritised because of who she was and how she voted in that ceasefire vote regarding the Israeli genocide of Gaza brought by the SNP in November of last year, resigning her position as Shadow Minister for Domestic Violence and Safeguarding over it because Keir Starmer imposed a 3-line whip to vote against it, because of course he did. Phillips made her move because of the massive Muslim population in her constituency of Birmingham Yardley. No point in hanging on to a front bench position when if you lose your seat, you would lose that job anyway. And frankly, the decision probably saved her skin come the 2024 general election, since despite Starmer's landslide victory nationally, a great many incumbent Labour MPs ended up either losing ground or lost their seats entirely. And Phillips came within a hair's breadth of losing her seat herself. Her own majority reduced from well over 10,000 to just 693 now. With Starmer's growing unpopularity as it is, she'd almost certainly lose her seat if the election were held again today. But hey, she's got 5 years more to turn that around for herself now, right? Plenty of time to say something stupid and get away with it, because for all of her praise of her doctor, she's effectively thrown them and anyone like them in terms of religion, race or ethnicity under a bus with her stupid comments that followed. Jess Phillips presented with breathing problems, therefore she was triaged as a high priority. Breathing problems basically top of the list, as we've gone over already. Yet her narcissism and her vanity, her puffed up sense of self-importance is apparently so great, she said this, direct quote from the Mail. Describing a distressing episode when she was having trouble breathing, "My lips had gone blue and I couldn't breathe," she recalled. Phillips, 42, explained that she'd sought urgent treatment at A&E in a Birmingham hospital. She was greeted by scenes of appalling overcrowding. "I have genuinely seen better facilities, health facilities in war zones in developing countries around the world," the minister continued. Nevertheless, eventually she got to the front of the queue. But this, she said, was undoubtedly for two reasons only. "I got through because of who I am. Also, the doctor who saw me was Palestinian, as it turns out. Almost all the doctors in Birmingham seemed to be. Her vote," she said, "was the other reason that she received preferential treatment. He was sort of like, I like you, you voted a ceasefire. Because of that, I got through quicker." So on one hand, if her hospital looks like a war zone medical facility, her comparison, how come this comes across as a surprise to her, really? She's literally been the MP since 2015. Has she not been raising this as an issue before now? Has she not noticed? Has she not been there? For 2, she got prioritised once she got to the front of the queue. So no preferential treatment at all when she crossed the threshold of the hospital, light glowing all about her, for it is she, Jess Phillips. Hark the herald angels sing, and the hospital staff will stop and gasp in reverence at their MP and coo in wonder that it is she, and she has graced them with her presence, and she must be prioritised because of who she is and how she voted. There was obviously no prioritising of her based on whatever Z-list celebrity status she thinks she has. No one gave a damn who she was until she got to the reception desk and very much had to wait her turn to get there. Thirdly, how does she know most of the doctors in Birmingham Hospital are Palestinian? She might have asked if there's a doctor that saw her, but equally it comes across as, well, maybe they all just look the same. And the reason I debate whether this is something she asked was because she also made mention of the fact the doctor said he liked her because of how she voted. And this I could well believe. But it was the follow-up, the inference made by the Mail. For all we know, they've embellished here. It is the Mail. But equally, they may not have. They did put it in square brackets. The words, because of that, implying Phillips' belief that this is why she got through quicker. Not that she actually said those words. And you have to bear in mind the very title of this Mail piece as well in all of this, which was Eden Confidential. My Gaza ceasefire vote speeded up my NHS care, says MP Jess Phillips. Now, if that is inaccurate, the Mail does, of course, leave itself open to legal doo-doo. So we have no reason really to disbelieve, particularly with Phillips' sense of self-worth so sky-high as she has a large reputation for being, that this is genuinely what she thought. But by putting those views to a national newspaper, a right-wing one, she has pretty much painted a target on any Palestinian or Palestinian-looking medic in a British hospital as giving out two-tier medical care. Two-tier care, and that moniker not just being extended amongst the police and how they are being deployed under this new Labour government, but now the NHS is implicated in that as well. And this is just going to be manna from heaven for racists and the far right to make such accusations. The next time one of them requires hospital treatment, for example, and they get triage so they might have to wait, they could end up blaming it on the doctor for being Palestinian that they've had to wait. Already other right-wing publications and hacks are all over this. Brendan O'Neill, for example, has written a piece in the hard-right Spectator titled Jess Phillips Must Explain Her Two-Tier NHS Gaza Claim. GB News, GBBs are doing a poll of their audience because that is, of course, bound to be impartial. But then you've got the Jewish Chronicle talking about it as well. Even the Times of Israel has covered this story. And this then swings to the damage being done with that background of the conflict between Israel and Hamas as the backdrop to this story. The other aspect to this is how Phillips' comments will also have a negative impact on Jewish people as well, and how it will be politicised by Zionists, who of course needn't be Jewish at all. But you'll have Jewish people, be they Zionists or not, afraid to go to a hospital in Birmingham perhaps now, if all the doctors are apparently, as Jess Phillips has told them, all Palestinian. You'll have Zionists crowing about two-tier health as much as the far right, often one and the same, of course. No doubt you'll have people popping up saying they're now too afraid to use British hospitals. Suppose somebody Jewish is in dire need of medical help but is now too afraid of being seen by a Palestinian who may, they think, have it in for them because of how much Zionists have ratcheted up that rhetoric, as much as they allegedly fast-tracked Phillips because of how she voted and who she is. What could be the consequences of that then, I wonder? That would be on Phillips, her words. Now back in her former role, perversely in light of this story, some might say, having responsibility for domestic violence and safeguarding once again. The consequences for Palestinian medics in the NHS, however, won't stop there. NHS England will now have to investigate these ridiculous claims. And those NHS workers from Palestine, or of Palestinian descent, will now inevitably face accusations of Jew hate, making their lives even harder, their ability to do their jobs unambiguously, now tainted. Social media has once again had plenty to say, and who am I not to highlight what others are thinking of Phillips here? Sebastian, for example, wrote, Jess Phillips is an idiot. She arrived in an A&E department presenting with breathing difficulties and signs of hypoxia, blue lips. Because of these symptoms, she got triaged as high priority. But her narcissism means she thinks she's responsible for standard medical practice. Sums up the self-centeredness the article implies, certainly. Richard O'Neill wrote, Jess Phillips is saying she was prioritised in hospital because recently she voted for Palestine, which raises the following questions. Who told the doctor she was there? How did she know he was Palestinian? What was her condition? And why the F, would she publicise it? Well, indeed. The doctor who saw her was random, just happened to be Palestinian. As for how did she know they were Palestinian, we can only surmise that it came up in hot conversation, though I'd hope it wasn't one of those "so where are you from then" questions, which in this horribly racist atmosphere that seems to pervade the UK these days just seems like an unwelcome and irrelevant thing to ask, even if you are just genuinely interested. As for why she publicised all this, well, it's Jess Phillips, isn't it? Dougie Brimson probably put it better than I did just then, though. He wrote, "As much as I dislike Jess Phillips, and I really do, I think the only thing she's guilty of here is being stupid enough to broadcast the fact that she's an idiot. However, I don't think she's done the hospital staff any favours at all with such a potentially dangerous claim." Perhaps that's why she's being uncustomarily quiet right now, though. This, of course, has all come on top of another public safety scandal Keir Starmer is having to deal with as well, and again, it is in his power to set it right. Phillips's actions here make you wonder if safeguarding is really a good fit for her in government, whilst the sacking of a whistleblower, blowing the whistle on rail safety concerns by the unelected lord that Starmer made a rail minister, is also something he really needs to deal with, but as of time of writing is still sat on his hands over. Get the details of that story in this video recommendation here for your next watch, and I will hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.